I'd like to welcome y'all back to another episode of Beyond the Fear podcast, a place where y'all come for motivation, inspiration, uplifting, and an overall positive message. And today's episode, the theme of today's episode is about stop keeping yourself in the place that you're no longer in. I was talking to my therapist a few weeks ago, and we got on the topic of relationships because she just asked me like how do I feel about therapy, how do I feel like our sessions are going, and I said I felt good. I felt like I'm kind of getting a clearer mind, and everything in my life is pretty much going well except for like a relationship. And she was like, so are you, she would just ask me, okay, well, how do you feel about a relationship? And I'm like, and I just told her the first thing that comes to mind is just like a headache, too much work, too much stress. These are just the things that I think about. And so she asked me why, and we talked about it, and a lot of it was just because of my last relationship, the things that I did, the things that were done to me, just both sides. um and she was just like, nah, I understand that, that's cool, but you're looking at it from the wrong perspective. Like, you're no longer that person. That's no longer you. You're working hard to no longer do those things, so you have to get out of that mindset, of whatever you did back then. Like, um just because I still think about those things. I still think about my part that I played in us breaking up in a relationship, not working. And she was like, yes, you made mistakes. Yes, you hurt somebody, because of the decisions that you made, but you've been working very hard since then to not be that person and to not make those choices. And you have to give yourself grace, and you have to forgive yourself for those things, but you have to start moving forward. Don't stay stuck in that place that you were in when you was in that relationship, because you have worked hard despite what you may, despite what you may think about yourself. You have worked hard. You're not in that space anymore. Think about what you just said at the beginning of this therapy session, that you feel improvements in every area, in every other area of your life outside of the relationship. And it's like you gotta. And she was like, and she also told me that forgiveness looks different for everybody. And she was like, you don't have to, it doesn't have to be a blank slate, meaning you don't have to wholesale forgive yourself, but you have to start working to get to a place where you can start moving forward when it comes to the thought of a relationship, or when it comes to an actual relationship. And, obviously not to force it and to let it come naturally, but you got to get to a place to where you at least aren't so closed minded to it. Like, you're not closing your heart, you're not closing your mind to the thought of a relationship. And so it just kind of got me to thinking, because I wasn't thinking about it like that. I wasn't thinking about how I'm still allowing myself to stay stuck in that place that I was in my past relationship, even though I've worked so hard to not be that person, to the point to where other people are noticing, man, I remember when you would have reacted this way. I remember when you would have done it this way. So, I have to realize that I'm not that person, and that I don't And I don't think, because I haven't been in that position to find out, but I don't think that I will handle things the way that I did at that time. And so, just trying to give myself grace, and also to forgive myself. But I just, so in that, and that's what inspired this conversation, this episode, is just like, because I know that there are probably so many people out there who hold themselves back, or hold themselves, um, down, because they're keeping themselves in this place that they may no longer be in, but they just think that they are in their head. People who've done the work, who've worked hard to move ahead and get better in every single aspect of their lives. But when it comes to a certain thing, a certain aspect of your life, you keep yourself in this box, you keep yourself in this cage, and you think that you can't be any better than this. You know what I'm saying? And so once once we started talking, it was like, okay, that's what I'm doing to myself. And I didn't even realize it. Like, I'm allowing myself to grow. I'm allowing myself to experience new things. I'm allowing myself to mentally and emotionally mature in so many areas of my life. But when it comes to a relationship, I just instantly shut the thought down. I instantly get so closed minded about it because I'm staying in that place. I'm not allowing myself to grow on a romantic tip or on a romantic side or relationship side, and part of that is because I'm still trying to be guarded with my emotions and things like that, because I think that that's what makes, I feel like I'm a great friend because I don't have to worry about you affecting my emotions. I don't have to worry about giving you my emotions. And I feel like that's one of the things that makes me a terrible boyfriend, because I have to be willing to open up in all ways, in all areas, mentally and emotionally, all of these things. And that's a hard thing for me to do. And I guess that is something that I need to talk to my therapist about, now that I think about it, now that I'm saying it out loud, I'm actually working through it in my head. But that's where I mess up, because that's when it becomes hard for me, because my history, not everybody else's, but my history has shown me that when I try to open up and, talk about my emotions, I get it thrown back in my face like, you sensitive and all of this stuff. So it's kind of like, it happened. Once it happens enough times, it's like, okay, I'm not going to open up. I'm not going to tell anybody anything. And, that was slowly destroying me. But I also understand now that I have to be way more selective about who I choose to open up to, because if I'm being honest with myself, there was there were signs that, okay, maybe these aren't the right type of people to open up to. There were signs, but I didn't pay attention. I just ignored them, because it's like, you do what you want to do, until you know better, then you do better. So now that I know better and I'm learning better, I realize that, you can't you may not be able to open up to everybody, because everybody's not going to receive it well. And so, unfortunately, for a lot of us, when we do open up or when we do something and it isn't received well, we'll put the blame and the responsibility on ourselves. Like, okay, that's my fault. It's all my fault. Now I can't open up to anybody, instead of saying, okay, there probably were some signs that that person was probably somebody that I don't need to open up to. I did it anyway, and they did exactly what I expected them to do. Okay, now I know, now I just adjust and I won't do that anymore. Once I see those signs, once you show me any signs that, okay, you may not be the right type of person to open up to, I'm not going to put you in that space. I'm not going to put you in that bucket of people that I can trust enough to open up to. And so, I had to learn discernment. I had to learn how to, realize, okay, this is somebody who I can open up to. This is somebody who I may not be able to. And so now you got to put everybody in their proper places. And so it's been a good couple of days, because, I've just been really just thinking on it and thinking on it, and, doing my best to not keep myself down when it comes to that part, and really just asking myself why I'm keeping myself down. And I think that, on the surface level, it was because I don't want to mess up another relationship. I don't want to, go through that, because it was just so emotional. It was a lot. And, I don't want to go through that again. But even as I was saying that, it was like, okay, but I'm also not the same person. So I don't see it going on for so long. I don't see me allowing myself or allowing this other person to be miserable for years before everything finally comes to a head and we officially let things go. I don't see it getting to that point, because I'm not trying to live like that. I mean, since going to therapy, I have found so much inner peace. And I know how hard I've worked for that inner peace. So I know that this isn't something that I just want to give up, or that I want to allow someone to come through and just destroy it. I do understand that there is, when you get into relationships or friendships, when you invite new people into your world, that there is going to be some ripples, there's going to be some disturbance, because people don't don't live the exact same way that I live. They don't think the exact same way that I think. So there are going to be some differences. There are going to be some adjustments that need to happen. So I don't have the mindset of, okay, if you come disrupting anything in any type of way, you got to go, because I understand that there are going to be some disruptions, because we all think different. We all do things differently. Something that may be super important to me may not be important to them, and vice versa. So there is an adjustment period. So there are some things that need to be adjusted, but I also understand that the core of who I am, or the core of my happiness, my peace that I found on the inside, that can't be disturbed. Now, some of the stuff on the outside, cool, because they may even introduce some things that I may be kind of hesitant with, but I may end up enjoying, I may end up liking, I may end up really caring for it more than they do. So I'm not as close minded as I used to be. Anything that disturbed me in any type of way, anything that went against my comfort zone, anything that went against, whatever I was trying to do, I would shut it down completely. And I missed out on a lot of opportunities, and I missed out on a lot of growth because of it. You know what I'm saying? So I do understand that, sometimes you do have to have a little disturbance. I'm not saying come shake your whole world up. And true enough, I'm a living example of, sometimes you need that too. Sometimes you need somebody to come shake your whole world up. And I mean down to the foundation. And so you can realize like how weak your foundation really was. So sometimes you need that. But if you know you have a solid foundation, and you've worked hard, and you have that inner peace, and you have that inner happiness, I'm not saying you need your world shaking up then, but there's nothing wrong with somebody coming in and introducing something new that you might be a little hesitant, because you don't know what it is, you don't know what it's about, you don't know what it represents. But what you do, but you trust this person. You trust that this person has your best interest at heart. Or even if you don't, and you're just trying something new, because that's the phase that I'm in now, is where I'm trying to open my mind up to new things and not be so closed minded to just say no to every single thing just because it's something new, because it's something I've never done before, something I've never tried, something I've never thought about doing, or whatever the case may be. I just instantly shut it down. So I'm trying to be more in this world of just trying, in this space of just trying things to see if that works for me. Can this work for me? Does this bring me happiness? Does this bring me any type of enjoyment or entertainment? Whatever the case may be. Case in point for me, finally started watching Game of Thrones with one of my friends, and we talked about it. We started watching it, and it's it's interesting. I'm not as a big of a fan as her on it, but it is enjoyable. I'm getting some enjoyment from it, but I know that me from a couple of years ago wouldn't have ever thought about watching Game of Thrones, because it just didn't look like my type of thing. And so, just in the spirit of just trying something new, I tried it and I enjoy it. Like, again, I may not enjoy it as much as she does, but there are things that I enjoy about it. But like anything, there are things about it that I'm like, I can deal without it, or whatever the case may be. But I'm glad that I'm trying new things, even if something as small as a show. I'm glad that I'm trying things. I'm glad that I'm saying, hey, let me check this out. When before I would have been like, no, I'm not interested. This ain't what I want to do. This ain't, I'm here with it. Anything outside of this, I'm not doing it. And so I'm glad that I'm not allowing myself to stay stuck in that box in other phases of my life and other parts of my life. And, I'm just trying to tell everybody, or the people who need to hear it, man, stop putting yourself in a box in certain places of your life just because you feel or you think that you're not ready to explore those places, because you never know. You never know if going outside of that boundary or going outside of that cage, going outside of that box may be the exact thing that you're looking for, or it may take you to the exact place that you're trying to go, or put you on that exact path that you need to be on. You'll never know if you're not willing to try. So definitely start trying to get outside that box that you're putting yourself in. You know what I'm saying? Like, yes, you may have been a certain type of person at one point in your life. Cool. That doesn't mean that you have to stay that person. That doesn't mean that you have to stay in that place. It does not mean that you have to keep that mindset, especially if you know that it's something that you don't want, and if you know that it's something, you know that it's not who you are. You were just in a tough place, and you didn't know how to regulate your emotions. You didn't know how to talk through things. You didn't know how to, whatever the case may be, whatever life skills you needed to learn, as long as you're learning them, you're working through your problems. There's no reason to keep yourself chained up to who you were back then. And I get it. There are going to be people from your past, from those moments, who only see you that way. And that's okay. Let them see you that way. But that doesn't mean you have to see yourself that way. And more importantly, that doesn't mean that you have to keep yourself in that place. You know, you may have hurt some people, and we have no right to judge the people that we hurt, or we have no right to tell them how long they need to process that hurt or process that situation. All you can do is forgive yourself, hope for their forgiveness, and go do your work. And if you're doing your work and you're in a better place, you gotta, give yourself grace, forgive yourself, and you have to, keep moving forward. Don't stay stuck in that place just because the person you may have offended wants to keep you there. They only gonna see you as that person. That's them. We can't control how they feel. You gotta let them feel how they feel and work through their issues, how they work through their issues. The only thing you can do is apologize and pray for forgiveness. That's it. Whether they forgive you or not, it has nothing to do with you. It's not up to you. You have to keep moving forward. You have to keep pushing. And so that was something that, I've kind of had to come to grips with myself, over these past couple of days, of just, kind of talking to people and, just in my own head, talking to myself and just realizing that, you know, it isn't easy to let go of things when you've hurt people, but it's important to work through those things and to get to a space where you can, especially if you're doing the work, you can admit, okay, I'm not that person anymore. Even if no one else sees it, or very few people see it, or whoever, you know what I'm saying? Even if they can't see it, you know that you're doing the work, and you know that you're not that person anymore, and that you're not in that space anymore. And it's, and I know that it's not easy. I understand that. I know that it's not, but you have to learn to let that, to, you got to learn to work through that, because it isn't going to be, it's not an easy thing to let go, because it's so easy for us, or see, let me just speak for myself. It's so easy for me. The easy thing for me is to just keep the blame, to keep the guilt, to hold on to it, and to stay in that space that I was in, because now I don't have to do any work. Like, people are going to see me as this angry, negative, um, person who can't regulate their emotions, who can't be calm, who can't talk when they're frustrated. That's all they see me as. So why not? So why work so hard to be something that I'm not? And that's the easy thing to do. The hard thing to do is yes, even though most people are only going to see me this way, they're not going to see me as anything else. They're not going to see me in any other way but this way. I'm still going to go out and do the work, and I'm going to show myself, not them. I'm going to show myself that I can do something different. I can be something different. I can be the person that I know I can be. I just need help to get me there because I can't do it on my own. I can't get to where I know I can be on my own, but I can get to, but I can get there. I know that I can. And so it's one of those things where you have to block out the noise, block out, how people are going to feel about you, what they're going to think about you, what they're going to say about you, and, just do the work. Because again, and that was also something I had to realize, I don't get to control how someone else feels about the pain that I caused them. I don't get to control when they work through or when they let go of the pain that I caused them. I don't get to choose that. I caused that pain. So I don't get to choose when they no longer feel offended, or when they can forgive, or when they can, whatever the case may be. I don't get to choose that. I don't get to, that isn't up to me at all. I don't get to do that. Just like when things get done to me, they don't get to choose how long I process that pain. And so, you know, it may be people who just hold on to things because they don't know how to let it go. But you can't let that stop you. You can't let that hold you in this place or in this space where you don't want to do anything because people only going to see you a certain way. And it's like, okay, I get it. I understand it. You don't want to be looked at as a monster, or you don't want to be looked at as the person that you used to be, but you got to understand that you can't control that. If that's the only thing that they knew is that, then all you can do is show them that you're somebody different. That's all you can do, is you can put in that work, and then when the time comes, you show that you are no longer that person. You move differently, you react differently. You've worked hard to put yourself in a position where you may not even be in some of those spaces, some of those places, and doing some of those things anymore. But that's up to you to show them. That's not up to them to be just assume that, okay, he's not that person or she's not that person anymore. You got to go prove that if that's what's important to you. You got to go show that. You got to go put that work in to genuinely transform who you used to be, your mindset, everything. Like, you got to shake your world up, and you got to bring it all the way down to the foundation, and you got to start building from the foundation and building a stronger foundation for yourself, and understanding yourself, understanding how you move, understanding how you react to things, and certain people, certain situations. And, you got to start putting the right people around you, making sure you're in the right places. You got to make sure that you have the right, you know, resources around you, you know what I'm saying? So that way you can handle things a lot better than what you used to. So, and again, it takes a lot of work. As somebody who's in the middle of that process right now, it takes a lot of work, but it is doable. And I think that once you start doing it, one of the hardest things that you're going to experience is learning how to forgive yourself, and learning how to not keep yourself in that box, because you may have been told that, or that may have been your reality for the longest time, is, oh, I'm just this type of person. This is who I am. And you've put yourself in that box too, not just the people around you, but you've also put yourself in this box. And so once you get to a space where you doing the work and you're genuinely starting to move out of that box, one of the hardest things that you're going to do is realizing that, hey, I'm no longer in that box. It's literally, at least that's how it happened for me. I literally just went through a situation. It was at work, and it was like when I went back to my area and I could just cool down, and I just had time to really mentally review everything that happened. It was like, whoa, I didn't react the way I would have reacted. I didn't do the things that I would have done. I didn't say the things that I would have said. And the crazy thing is that the thoughts to do some of these things wasn't even there. So the thought wasn't even there. And it was just like you realize, okay, you're no longer in that box anymore. And one of the toughest things that you got to do is telling yourself and realizing that I'm not in that box, that I've done enough work to where I can now move myself out of that box. That does not mean my work is done. That does not mean that I stopped doing the work. But what that does mean is that I've tore everything down and I've built enough of a foundation for me to be able to honestly say, because I've been through enough situations, that I'm not that person that I used to be. Am I still working on myself? Absolutely. Do I still have a lot more work left to do? Absolutely. So my work is not done, but I have done enough work that I can, at this point where I am now, I can look back at all the work that I've done and I can say that I'm not the person that I used to be anymore. And it's not impossible to get to that point, but it is hard sometimes of convincing yourself that you're not there anymore, that you're not at that point anymore. And I know how frustrating that can be to not understand why you don't want to let go of that label and why you want to get out of that space, because getting out of that space also comes with expectations. It also comes with responsibilities. See, when people thought that you was this troublemaker and they thought that you was this whatever box you're in, people don't have any expectations, or the expectation that they have is low, because it's like, okay, this person is going to be this person. They're going to do X, Y, Z, and that's it. And now once you start to realize, okay, now that I've done the work and I'm out this box, these expectations are different. You know, this weight that I got to carry is different. You know, you go from people not expecting much of you to people expecting a lot from you. People expecting way more from you. People expect you to take that high road when they always expected you to take that low road. And so it's definitely different. But I'm telling you, as long as you got the right people around you and you're not trying to do every single thing by yourself, you can handle it. You can hold that weight. You can walk proudly with that weight. You can walk with your head held high with that weight, as long as you got the right people around you, as long as you got your things, your tools that you need to get through whatever it is that you need to get through. You know, keep going to therapy, keep leaning on your friends, keep making sure that your village is as strong and as tight as possible. There aren't any leaks. You know, making sure that your foundation, you know, is always solid and sound. Things like that. You know, don't go trying to do this stuff by yourself just because you at a point now where you can get out that box. Don't stop doing your work. You know, I look at it like, now that you're out the box, you made it to one finish line. Now it's time to start. Now you're at the starting line for the next race. That don't mean that you stop doing this work just because you made it out the box. That means that now you got to start a whole new journey, a whole new set of things that you got to do now. And so just keep working, keep pushing, keep striving, and you'll get to your next finish line and then your next starting point. You know, it's an ongoing battle that you got to do. It's a never ending struggle that you go through, but it does get easier because you get more resources. You find more people to put in your village. You find more people to talk to. You even get to the point to where you start helping people with their issues, the things that you've seen them and seeing them go through because you went through it. So you may become a mentor, but it just starts to add up and it becomes easier because you deal with these battles on a day-to-day basis and they become a little easier. So I know in the beginning it's hard, and I know how hard it is to get yourself out that cage, or how naked you feel when you first get out that cage, because you have no expectation, you have no eyes, you have people just counting you out, and now you got people who are holding you accountable and asking you to be responsible and putting all these responsibilities on you and all these expectations on you when you didn't have them. So it feels like an overwhelming burden, but I'm telling you, it gets lighter. It's just like working out. The more you work out, the more weights they put on you, the more responsibility they put on you. You keep pumping it to the point to where you don't feel it anymore, but you just one day at a time, one thing at a time, and you will get there. So stop allowing yourself to stay stuck in that cage. because everybody else expects you to be there. That's their expectations. Your expectation of yourself needs to be higher. It's time to get off. It's time to get out of those cages and, start living again, start getting back, start getting, I was about to say get back to who you were, but get to a better place. Don't just get back to who you are, get to a better place, because you don't have to stay that person just because everybody else expects you to be that person. You can be anybody you want to be as long as you're willing to put in the work to get there. And it won't be easy. But again, as long as you're not trying to do it by yourself, you got the right people around you, you got your resources, you can make it. But man, that's it for today's episode. I want to thank everybody for listening on whatever platforms y'all are listening on. And I want to thank everybody on YouTube for watching. Please continue to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And y'all have a blessed day.